justice, and reconciliation are just as much biblical mandates as evangelism and discipleship. As a matter of biblical fact, there are actually more references in Scripture regarding justice than discipleship, though I would never downplay the importance of discipleship. The Bible doesn't simply present the poor and vulnerable as objects of pity, but as the receivers of healing, liberation, empowerment, and authority. This narrative and missional venture is why this book is so important. Alvin Sanders has spent years as an urban church planter, public theologian, denominational executive, and urban missions leader. He has a deep passion for the church, racial reconciliation, and the empowerment of indigenous urban leaders. This book provides transformative insights for a church that can serve as a force for kingdom advancement in the city. Allow this resource to challenge you, change you, and equip you so that you might serve God's mission for our cities. Part 1. Uncommon Church. Chapter 1. Advocacy is not enough. Show me a hero, and I'll write you a tragedy. F. Scott Fitzgerald. Show Me a Hero by Lisa Belkin highlights a low-income housing fight in Yonkers, New York, during the 1980s, not unlike conflicts that continue to happen throughout the nation. Yonkers, like many cities, was racially segregated, and the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP, and the federal government teamed up to try to bring change. Together, they filed a lawsuit against Yonkers with the goal of integrating the city's institutions, such as the housing system, and they won a court order that the city desegregate. Yonkers had followed the pattern of many cities, limiting public housing to a small section of the city, resulting in the isolation of its poor residents. Those who benefited from this illegal practice decided not to let 4 decades of segregation go quietly into the night. They fought the court order fiercely. When the inevitable happened, and low-income housing was built on the historically white side of town, ugliness ensued, reminiscent of the civil rights clashes of the 1960s. The hero of this story is the young mayor Nick Wasisco, who at 28 became a rising star when he unexpectedly won the mayoral race in the middle of the conflict. The campaign promise that swept him to victory was his pledge to appeal the desegregation order. When he came into office in 1987, promising to fight the housing mandate, he realized there was no way to keep his campaign promise, and he became an advocate of integrated housing. The decision was somewhere between a political expediency — the city budget was going to crash if he didn't go along with the order — and an authentic change of heart. Predictably, there were dire consequences. Wasisco was bullied and threatened, and he was eventually voted out. He bounced back and returned as a councilman in the 1990s, but he killed himself in 1993 at the age of 34. Is advocacy a vicious cycle that dooms a person in the end? It certainly can seem that way. In 2020, we're still fighting battles concerning fair housing. As people of God who have an eternal perspective, we definitely should play a role in helping to solve justice issues such as these. You may not have heard the name Howard Thurman before, yet if you haven't, I would bet you unknowingly know of his work. He was called Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s personal theologian, as Dr. King based much of his work in Thurman's teachings. Thurman's most famous work was a book titled Jesus and the Disinherited. If you have never read it, I highly encourage you to do so. Oftentimes this work is situated in liberation theology, yet I don't agree. Although we can sift elements of that genre from its pages, I would categorize his insights more in the realm of providing a spirituality that is liberating. He says repeatedly in the book that he is exploring what the teachings of Jesus have to say to those who stand at a moment in history with their backs against the wall: the poor, the disinherited, the dispossessed. In other words, he imagined how people on the margins of society could remain human despite the 3 hounds of hell that track the trail of the disinherited: fear, hypocrisy.